He accidentally knocked over a human-shaped doll on the table, and unexpectedly, a loud noise immediately came from outside the door. He curiously stepped out to look, only to be shocked to discover that his best friend had passed away without warning at the exact moment the doll fell. He attended his friend Henry's funeral in sorrow, but right after leaving, he was mocked by some ill-mannered children.
Hey buddy, where's Snow White?
Because he is only 1 meter 35 centimeters tall, Finbar attracts many strange looks wherever he goes. Even when grocery shopping, he hears various comments. Although he is long accustomed to such mockery, it still hurts him a little inside.
Miss.
Paper or plastic?
Apart from the obvious ridicule, his short stature genuinely causes him many difficulties. The cashier said sorry, but the mocking look on their face was uncontrollable. Despite enduring all kinds of unkindness, Finbar rarely gets angry with people because he knows only inner peace and strength can help him ignore the outside world. However, Henry's passing still left a deep wound in Finbar's heart. Not long after, a lawyer found Finbar and told him that Henry owned half an acre of land in New Jersey. On this land stood an old train station, long out of service, and converted into a dwelling, which Henry had left to him as an inheritance. Perhaps because he had had enough of people's cold stares and mockery, Finbar decided to move into the old train station. The place was sparsely populated, surrounded by green trees with a long train track cutting through the woods. Although the house was dilapidated, without electricity or water, he felt it was an excellent dwelling because it was far from worldly troubles and brought peace to his heart. A small sofa was spacious enough to accommodate his entire body. He hadn't slept so soundly in a long time. The next morning, he was awakened by the sound of someone talking on the phone. Going outside, he discovered a roadside food truck parked by his door. Hearing someone approach, Joe immediately stuck his head out of the food truck. Seeing Finbar, a flicker of surprise, like that of any ordinary person, appeared in Joe's eyes, but only for a brief moment before he warmly began introducing his signature coffee. Finbar ordered a cup, but Joe was curious why he had suddenly moved to this godforsaken place. Not wanting to explain to a stranger, Finbar urged Joe to make his coffee quickly. Perhaps because he hadn't seen a new face in a long time, Joe was very eager. After handing him the coffee, he introduced himself, and so the two became acquainted. While Finbar was out grocery shopping, he encountered a swerving car whose driver was on the phone and didn't see his small figure. Seeing the car about to hit him, he had no choice but to quickly jump into the bushes. At the same moment, Olivia also got out to check. She hurriedly ran over and tried to help Finbar up from the ground, only to slip and fall down herself. Although Olivia made him quite disheveled, Finbar wasn't angry. To make up for her mistake, Olivia offered him a ride, but unimpressed by her driving skills, he firmly declined. As soon as Finbar entered the supermarket, the owner looked at him curiously. While he shopped, the owner even took out a camera and photographed this unusual little person. Finbar, already used to it, didn't argue with the owner. After picking out some daily necessities, he went to the checkout counter. Unexpectedly, while carrying bags of groceries home, he encountered Olivia again. This time, Olivia accidentally spilled her coffee, the scalding heat making her scream. Seeing the car swerving towards him again, Finbar jumped into the bushes once more to avoid danger. Olivia couldn't understand why this kept happening. She hurriedly ran down, apologizing profusely.
I saw you. I tried to put my cafe con leche down and it spilled all over my ass and it burned me to death, so I swerved.
No matter how Olivia explained, Finbar felt she was doing it on purpose. Olivia offered him a ride again, which he once more refused. When he finally walked home, he saw Joe's food truck parked outside. Joe immediately came up to greet him. Although Joe didn't live there, they were something like neighbors. Finbar firmly declined Joe's invitation. He cherished his solitude, enjoying walks along the train tracks where there was no human noise, only the sound of wind, rustling grass, insects, and birds. But at some point, a little girl started following him. She was a bit taller than him, with dark skin and a heavy build, also often excluded by her peers. In her innocent ignorance, she mistook him for someone her own age. But although Finbar was small, time had long left its mark on his face. Therefore, when he turned around, the girl was startled by his face, which didn't match his stature, and immediately ran away. He just gave a resigned smile. He had endured too many strange looks to get angry at a child's ignorance and curiosity. Unexpectedly that evening, someone knocked on his door. He was surprised, unable to imagine who would come looking for him, and wondered if the persistent knocking was just his imagination. However, the sound didn't stop, confirming he wasn't hearing things. He went and opened the door to find Olivia standing there. Olivia broke the silence between them with a humorous, self-deprecating remark. She also brought him a housewarming gift, a bottle of red wine. They shared a drink, and then a phone rang. Olivia initially thought it was Finbar's phone.
My phone's disconnected.
It's mine. I always forget I have this thing.
What level of disappointment with the world must one reach to cut off all contact with it? Olivia picked up the phone and saw it was her ex-husband calling, but she didn't answer. Finbar didn't ask any questions, clearly showing he didn't want to have much conversation with anyone. Olivia, however, tried hard to find topics, looking around the room's layout and impulsively opening a drawer. Unexpectedly, the drawer was so old and worn it was on the verge of falling apart, and with Olivia's pull, the entire cabinet crashed to the floor. Olivia was knocked down, and Finbar hurried over to help, but his small frame, similar to an 8 or 9-year-old child's, meant he couldn't be of much help. Olivia scrambled up from the ground and moved to sit on the sofa. Only then did Finbar bend down to pick up the books scattered on the floor.
Who left you this place?
My friend Henry.
When did he die?
3 weeks ago.
I'm sorry. My son Sam died 2 years ago.
Finbar realized then that everyone carries their own misfortune, only his was too visible. People could see it at a glance, while Olivia's misfortune was buried deep in her heart, like a stubborn splinter that constantly tormented her. Finbar didn't offer any words of comfort because he knew that, facing such tragedy, any words would be futile. Perhaps because he had also lost his friend, he understood Olivia's feelings better. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop, yet a sense of mutual understanding flowed between the two of them. Olivia stayed the night at his place, but the simple room only had one sofa, forcing Finbar to sleep in the bathtub. When Olivia woke up the next day, she realized she had spent the night in a strange man's house. She immediately grabbed her bag and walked out, only to be seen by Joe. Olivia often came to Joe's food truck to buy coffee, and Joe had been pursuing her all along, but Olivia had never responded to his advances. Seeing that Finbar had won over Olivia just days after moving in, Joe quickly knocked on his door and brought him a free cup of coffee.
I've been here for 6 weeks. I don't get 2 words out of her. You're here 24 hours. It's sleepover time?
Joe clearly misunderstood something. Just then, a phone rang again from inside the room. Finbar knew Olivia must have left her phone behind. He didn't intend to answer it for her, but Joe picked up the phone and handed it to him. Amidst the insistent ringing, Joe still couldn't resist asking curiously what exactly happened last night, but Finbar didn't want to tell him. Just then, a customer arrived at the food truck. Joe immediately got up to leave, but before he walked away, he voiced his request.
Hey, listen, if you guys do something later, can I join you?
We're not gonna do something.
No, I know, but if you do, can I join you?
We're not gonna do something later.
Okay, but if you do?
Okay.
Cool. Hey, good man.
It was the first time someone had said something like that to him. When Joe said it the first time, Finbar instinctively felt it was just Joe mocking him, because he had endured too many cold stares. But when Joe said it a second time, Finbar felt he was sincere. Although his life was destined to suffer endless mockery, he would also surely meet 1 or 2 people who treated him sincerely. Perhaps it was precisely in moments like these that his spirit found solace. Later, Finbar went to Olivia's house and placed the phone by the door, right as the ringing started again. He put down the phone and left quietly without a sound. A moment later, someone knocked on Olivia's window. It was her best friend. Since her son's death, Olivia had moved away from the big city to live in this small cabin nestled in the woods. Her best friend was worried about her mental state, which is why she came all this way to see her. Unexpectedly, Olivia refused to talk to familiar people, because seeing them made her think of her deceased son, so after briefly brushing off her best friend, she hurried back inside. After returning the phone, Finbar visited the library. Unexpectedly, as he walked out holding books, he startled the librarian, Emily. Even though Emily meant no harm, being startled still hurt Finbar's self-esteem. Fortunately, he was used to it. He didn't show any sign of it on his face. However, the borrowing process was a bit troublesome, requiring him to get a library card. Just then, a voice spoke up behind Finbar. Olivia offered to borrow the books for him, but he declined her kindness again, wanting no extra contact with anyone. As a result, when Finbar returned home from being out that day, he saw the book he had wanted to borrow sitting right on his doorstep. Who left it was obvious. Joe also took the opportunity to tell him who had left it. Although Joe felt a bit jealous, he wanted even more to be friends with Finbar, inviting him to share a beer, only to be refused once more. Although Finbar always treated Joe coldly, Joe still greeted him every day before leaving. And each time Joe left, Finbar felt an odd sense of loneliness. The truth was, it wasn't that he didn't want friends, but that he didn't dare to engage with human nature anymore. He feared others approached with malice, so he protected himself by refusing interaction. Even with a harmless little girl, he unconsciously felt guarded. One day, Cleo found Finbar again and started talking to him. Cleo was still young and naive, but she now understood. Finbar couldn't possibly be her peer. Although Finbar desperately wanted to isolate himself, Joe repeatedly entered his world. Their conversations weren't many, yet Joe understood Finbar's inner world. So whenever customers showed scorn towards Finbar, Joe would get angry.
Hey, boss! Boss!
Hey!
What?
Shut up.
Compared to these hostile strangers, Joe was clearly a very kind person. In many people's eyes, Finbar was like a monkey in a zoo to be stared at, because he was different. But Joe understood the pain in Finbar's heart, even imagining how much malice he must have endured over the years. He had developed the ability to ignore malice completely. He enjoyed sitting alone by the tracks reading, and Joe would always actively approach Finbar. Although he had his own motives, it felt more like an excuse to get Finbar to open up. Finbar still spoke very little, and Joe didn't like reading either, but he could sit with Finbar for an hour or two. No matter what topic Joe brought up, Finbar wasn't very interested, yet Joe still followed him around. Just then, Olivia happened to come out of the supermarket, and Joe suggested they could all go on a picnic. Finbar couldn't refuse his enthusiasm, so he reluctantly agreed. Joe was in charge of cooking the food, while Finbar and Olivia sat waiting in the shade of a tree. Although they barely spoke, the atmosphere was peaceful and pleasant. Unexpectedly, just as Joe brought out the steaks, he got a call from his father. His father was bedridden with chronic illness. When he called, Joe had to return immediately. So Joe rushed off in his food truck, leaving Finbar and Olivia behind. They exchanged a look, and the air suddenly became awkward.
This is really good. We don't have to talk, we can just eat. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Time flowed peacefully, and there was always a figure by Finbar's side to keep him company. One day, while the two were walking, they happened to encounter Emily from the library, and Emily greeted Finbar first, but Joe answered for him. Sometimes Olivia would come to find the two of them, and they would walk boredly along the train tracks. They didn't know what scenery lay ahead, but the time spent with good friends was always so pleasant. When tired from walking, they would sit on the ground, and Finbar would take out beef jerky to share with Olivia and Joe, chatting aimlessly. Finbar said his greatest wish was to make a train documentary. When Henry was still alive, the two often attended the Train Documentary Club, where members shared the footage they captured and their feelings while filming. He really wanted to make one too, but unfortunately he had no camera and couldn't drive, which remained a regret in his heart. Sometimes they would also sit chatting at his doorstep, but watching children playing soccer near the food truck, Olivia remembered her own son and suddenly became extremely sad. Not wanting Finbar to notice her distress, Olivia left. Finbar, always perceptive, could not miss Olivia's emotions, but he never spoke about it. With the help of Joe and Olivia, Finbar filmed the first train documentary of his life. Although he didn't film it very well and the food truck wasn't very fast, Finbar liked it very much. The two wanted to share this news with Olivia immediately, because the camera was a gift from Olivia to Finbar, so they hurried over to her house without delay. Olivia had never allowed anyone into her cottage before, yet she didn't mind Finbar and Joe's arrival. Only upon entering did they discover it was actually an art studio, and Olivia had painted many works. Joe wasn't very good at appreciating abstract art styles, but before he could voice his opinion, Olivia told him to shut up. Somehow, their friendship had evolved to a point where they could tease each other. Joe, being the chef, was still responsible for cooking, while Finbar and Olivia only needed to wait to be served, so they sat by the swimming pool chatting. Olivia said this house was originally bought by her ex-husband for vacations, never imagining it would become her refuge from reality. Olivia asked Finbar again why he came here, and he had learned to joke.
I wanted to live near Joe.
You guys, can you come up here and talk? Seriously, this sucks.
Finbar still wasn't ready to open up completely, but the fact that he could joke around was already progress. As night fell, they sat together enjoying a meal, a quiet atmosphere enveloping them, occasionally broken by bursts of laughter.
Have you ever been in love, Finn?
Yeah.
What happened?
And, really angry.
About what?
Being a dwarf.
For the first time, Finbar opened up in front of Olivia and Joe, saying it wasn't his fault he was born this way, yet he was forced to endure others' malicious, curious, or pitying gazes. Although he didn't say much, Olivia could sense his pain. By then, Joe had fallen sound asleep, and Finbar wanted to wake him. But Olivia thought it best not to disturb him. Finbar was settled to rest in the bedroom by Olivia, and she brought him a glass of water. Seeing a photo of a boy on the table, he guessed it must be Olivia's son, Sam. Olivia sat down and calmly told him about the accident involving her son.
He fell off the monkey bars. I turned my head for a second.
Looks like a happy kid.
He was.
Even though Olivia could now recount everything calmly, one could still imagine her grief at the time. After bidding each other goodnight, Olivia leaned down and kissed Finbar. This kiss was more like a comforting gesture between friends, devoid of sensuality. The next morning, Olivia's ex-husband David appeared at the door. He knocked perfunctorily a few times before pushing it open and walking in. Finbar was startled awake by the knocking and rushed downstairs, locking eyes with David, who had just walked in. Both of them stood frozen in shock. Joe, eating breakfast, came out from the kitchen. David, realizing this might just be a gathering of friends, visibly relaxed. Hearing the commotion, Olivia came down too. Seeing David, she first looked surprised, then her face filled with rejection. Clearly, she had no wish to see him. David said Olivia hadn't been answering his calls, so he had to come find her himself. They clearly had things to discuss, so Finbar and Joe had to step away temporarily. Just as they reached the door, the sounds of Olivia and David arguing erupted from inside. No one expected the gathering to end like this. Back home, Finbar remained immersed in his books. Unexpectedly, Cleo found him that day and handed him an invitation.
Here, Finn, it's a permission slip so you can speak at my school.
I can't speak at your school, Cleo.
Yes, you can. You can pick any Friday that you want.
I'm sorry, I can't.
But I already told everyone you're coming.
Cleo had obviously talked about Finbar at school, and the teacher, hearing about him, wanted to invite him to give a speech. But Finbar disliked exposing himself in front of crowds, so how could he possibly agree to a public speech? Cleo didn't understand his feelings, simply thinking everyone was genuinely interested in him. Perhaps Finbar had already become a topic Cleo discussed with her classmates at school, but she didn't know that some of them actually harbored malice toward him. Olivia hadn't appeared for several days. Only Finbar and Joe walked the tracks now. They occasionally talked about Olivia. Joe said he really disliked David because the man seemed calculating and difficult.
You've had sex, right?
Yes.
With a regular-sized chick?
Yeah.
You ever had it with someone your own size?
No.
Finbar was silent, but he wasn't angry. Knowing Joe's curiosity about him wasn't malicious either. The next day, Finbar went to the library again, and this time he got a library card. During the process, Emily flirted with him rather ambiguously. Later, Finbar told Joe about it. Deep down, he knew Emily's interest in him stemmed from a novelty-seeking curiosity. Although Joe and Olivia also held curiosity, theirs was based more on friendship towards Finbar. While the two sat chatting by the roadside, Olivia's car happened to pass by. Not only did she not stop to greet them, she accelerated past. Joe felt some anger about this. Finbar, though disappointed inside, rarely showed his emotions. Just then, Joe's father called. Joe had to go home. Before leaving, he invited Finbar to the bar that night, and Finbar readily agreed. Later, Finbar went to the supermarket again and overheard the owner talking to Olivia on the phone. Olivia wanted the owner to deliver the goods to her home, but the owner had no available staff. So Finbar offered to help the owner with the delivery. However, when he knocked on the door, Olivia treated him coldly, acting as if he were truly a delivery stranger.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How much?
Finbar had to take the money and leave. He felt deeply hurt by Olivia's changed attitude, but he knew Olivia must be going through something, clearly related to David. In the evening, Finbar went to the bar to meet Joe. From the moment he walked in, people kept looking at him, intentionally or unintentionally. Finbar was used to such looks, so he didn't pay much attention. Just then, Emily walked over. They were both waiting for someone. As soon as Emily sat down, she received a call from her boyfriend who told her he couldn't make it to the appointment. Emily was clearly upset, but she put up a tough front and told him. Finbar could tell he was just a backup plan, but he wasn't angry because he knew he had always been insignificant to others. However, at that moment, Emily told him a secret.
I'm pregnant. I haven't told anyone yet. Even Chris. I was gonna tell him today. He's probably gonna freak out. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to say it.
Finbar knew Emily had encountered a jerk but didn't know how to comfort her because at times like this, any words felt empty. When they came out, Emily's boyfriend happened to arrive to pick her up. The moment he saw Finbar, the boyfriend showed endless malice towards him. Finbar ignored him, but unexpectedly the boyfriend started arguing with Emily again. Finbar instinctively wanted to protect Emily but was met with insults. As an adult male, Finbar's combat ability was less than an elementary student's. He knew he couldn't protect Emily and had to leave helplessly. Besides despair, his dignity had been trampled upon. The cold stares and mockery he had endured over the years seemed amplified to their limit at this moment, and the emotions he had suppressed for decades finally burst out uncontrollably. Finbar angrily pounded on the door. Train lights flickered across his face. This scene was like Finbar's long life. Darkness was the norm. Though light flickered constantly, those bright moments were fleeting. In the end, darkness would ruthlessly swallow him. The next morning, Finbar started dismantling the house he lived in. He could only vent his emotions this way. At this time, Joe walked in. He apologized for missing the appointment last night. His father suddenly had another attack before he went out, so he had to stay at home to take care of his father. He had wanted to call and tell Finbar, but Finbar had no phone. Joe complained that Finbar should get one, but now Finbar didn't want to talk to him. Joe had to leave. Finbar resumed his solitary life, but deep down he understood very well that he actually needed friends. But because of his unique physique, making friends was harder for him than for anyone else. That evening, Finbar's door was knocked on again. It was Emily. She had come to apologize for that day's incident. Although Finbar was very angry, he also knew none of this was Emily's fault. Perhaps the source of the error was his own miserable fate. From the day he was born, he was destined to endure countless malice. Although Emily came to apologize, she still harbored curiosity inside, and Finbar used his own actions to show Emily that he was no different from ordinary men. He too had desires. He too yearned for love. After learning the truth, Emily's curiosity and fondness for Finbar instantly vanished. The next day, she hurriedly escaped from his world. Although Finbar felt sorrow, he was long accustomed to it. After Emily left, Finbar saw Cleo again, and Cleo curiously inquired about him and Emily.
You mean Olivia?
I liked her.
Yeah, me too.
When is she coming back?
I don't know.
Finbar decided to go find Olivia, but the door to Olivia's house remained firmly shut. So Finbar sat down on the tracks opposite, believing the door would open eventually. He waited from noon until dusk, yet the door never opened, and Finbar had to return dejected. But the next day, he went back to Olivia's house again. This time, he finally heard Olivia's voice. She was arguing fiercely with David on the phone. Finbar had never seen Olivia in such a hysterical state. He couldn't help but step forward to show concern, but Olivia harshly sent him away. When someone is in an extremely agitated mood, they don't want to be seen by others. Finbar could only leave feeling downcast. He went to the bar again, and as he was drinking, people kept casting glances at him intentionally or unintentionally. The suppressed emotions in Finbar's heart could no longer be contained. He stood on the table.
Here I am. Take a look. Take a look!
Finbar stormed out of the bar angrily, staggering drunkenly along the train tracks until he accidentally fell. Just then, a train came rushing towards him. Seeing its flashing lights, he gave a serene smile. Perhaps he had imagined this scene countless times. His life had been too painful, and dying like this wouldn't be a bad thing. But the next day, waking up with a hangover, he found himself still alive. He thought it might have been a dream, but the shattered pocket watch beside him told him it was all real. God just wasn't ready to take him yet. Since he hadn't died, it marked the start of a new beginning. Finbar's mood suddenly brightened. He went to Olivia's house again only to find her lying on the floor, and he rushed to help her up.
I want to see him back.
It turned out that David had another illegitimate child. He had come to see Olivia a few days ago, hoping that she would remarry him and help raise the child. For Olivia, this was nothing short of a devastating joke. She refused to raise someone else's child. She only wanted her own son back. Finbar finally understood the pain in Olivia's heart, and after Olivia spoke everything out, her heart finally found peace. Finbar also decided to return to his old life. He bought a phone, and the first call he made was to Joe. The two reconciled. They still gathered to chat whenever possible, and days passed quietly in pleasant times. Finbar also finally decided to fully accept himself and went to Cleo's school to give the speech. Though the children still looked at him differently, his heart remained unshaken. At this moment, he had completely accepted himself. Some people are born imperfect, even with obvious differences. They might live their whole lives under the gaze of others. Accepting oneself may not be easy. Life is short, just 30,000 days. Each one an experience, and not wasting time on pain is the greatest respect for oneself. One shouldn't think too much about the past or the future. Tomorrow is not promised, and farewells may be forever. When the wind rises, don't ask where the fallen petals go. After clouds scatter, don't seek the vanished swan. The true essence of life needs no frantic search. It's right here, in the flutter of an eyelash, at the warm rim of a teacup in your palm. In the instant of laughter with cherished friends, after tasting life's myriad flavors. Looking back, those searing joys and sorrows are but a wisp of steam from tea swirling in the vastness. Just half cup of starlit frost, a glimmer from a journey where mountain and water meet. Walk the path beneath your feet. Cherish those present before your eyes.